Ellensburg or Seaverville, Tennessee, because that was a fun, and also the Smoky Mountains was nice and relaxing and good to recharge here. Now, getting to the previous week of arena football, we're getting close to the playoff picture forming for the National Arena League. The National Arena League, the Arena League is about to start playing with their preseason, which the actual season begins the following week after Memorial Day weekend. And there's a little bit lesser of the games because of Memorial Day weekend. Understandable, of course. Excuse me. Then, of course, the IFL, they had their first and annual with their tournament with the IFL Cup, with the semifinals there, and then going to have the finals this weekend, which those games actually played last night. So that was kind of interesting. The excuse me, AF1 is still going on strong, and interesting enough, when going over their standings, it's kind of interesting how the lower part is, because right now it's anyone's game for those last two, with the 5 and 6 spots for the playoffs for the Arena Football League. And then, of course, the American Arena League, they all had games, but they were against other opponents, and kind of confusing too. They're either supposed to have a bye this weekend or sometime there's, I don't know, it's a little bit confusing here because so far I believe they have a bye according to their schedule. And the International League, right now, it seems like they're just doing 2 games a week on all on YouTube, especially with some of their European teams now coming over to the US, like I mentioned a few weeks beforehand, playing there. But so far, they're still going on, which I'll give them credit, at least with their problems, they're still going. But I digress. Now let's get to the National Relay League here for their first game, which you have the Omaha Beef. Ever since the coaching change, has been playing like they've been playing like they weren't for the first few weeks of the National Arena League, and they beat the Sioux City Bandits, which was thought to be one of the more top tier teams of the National League, has kind of struggled a little bit. And the Omaha beat, and it was close in the first, and it just kept going edge and edge, and the Omaha Beef just narrowly beat the Sioux City Bandits by 4 points, 41-37. And it was a very entertaining, good game. So I'll give them credit. At least it's kept it a little bit more entertaining. Excuse me. Uh, so like I said, the Omaha Beef beat the Sioux City Bandits 41-37, and it's become very interesting how the playoff picture looks right there. I'll explain in a few minutes. Omaha quarterback Vincent Espinoza, 19-30, 152 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 reception, 6 rushing attempts for 41 yards. Then, believe it or not, their other quarterback, Ivan Corbin, 6 attempts, 14. It says quarterback, so I think it's their running back. Sometimes, I don't know why, it's a little bit confusing how some teams position their players on their stat sheet. Ivan Corbin, 6 attempts, 14 yards with 2 rushing TDs and 2 receptions for 1 touchdown. Wide receiver Devondre Coleve, 10 receptions, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Daquan Dudley, 1 reception of 26 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive player for the Beef, defensive back Chris Perry, 4 tackles and an interception. Sioux City quarterback Lorenzo Brown, 3 for 18, 155 yards, 4 TDs, 1 interception, 5 rushing attempts for 49 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Brandon Shepard, 5 receptions, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 attempts for 2 yards. Wide receiver Raheem Harvey, 6 receptions, 30 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Jadon Johnson, 6 receptions, 54, excuse me, 54 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive performance for the Bandits. Defensive back Marzane Caldwell, 3 tackles, 3 attacks, and an interception. Second game, you're basically facing one of the more top teams in the league versus the very bottom with the Amarillo Warbirds. It comes to Amarillo, and of course, I do have to mention that the that the National Relay League, they had 10 teams, but it's down to 9 since the Dallas Bulls were kicked out. So and I don't know, this really wasn't a close game, and plus the stats was not really correct here. It's for some reason it says they scored nothing in the fourth quarter, but the final score was 43-27, and the game points on each quarter doesn't add up. So once again, they need to fix that. So like I said, Salina Liberty beat the like pretty much is in the doghouse of the league, the Armor Warbirds 43 to 27, and Armor Warbirds have been eliminated from the playoffs this season. Selena quarterback Evan Lodrowski, 9 through 16, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 5 attempts, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Running back Tracy Brooks, 3 attempts for 13 yards, a touchdown, 2 receptions, 30 yards for a receiving touchdown. Wide receiver John Williams, 1 reception, 9 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive forwards for the Liberty. Defensive lineman Kerry Starks, 1 tackle, 1 sack, which include also a safety. Then Armorillo, Demetri Croft, 15 through 29, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 attempts for 61 yards and a touchdown. Running back Josh Batiste got 4 rushing attempts for 4 yards, a touchdown, and 4 receptions for 31 yards. Wide receiver Michael Arkinix, 1 reception, 37 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Orlando Doss, 5 receptions, 54 yards and a touchdown. Best defensive forward, Maquille Pillow Smiley, 3 tackles, one attack, and 1 pass defense. Yeah, there are only 2 games here for the National League. So that now that we go to the standings here, this is how it goes here for. Oh yeah, it was 9, then they went to 8. Don't know why I said 10. Must be confused with another league. Apologies for that. So as of right now, there is a cutoff point. There's only 6 teams going to the playoffs. As of right now, 8th place, like I said, Armor Warblers, 1 and 8. They have been eliminated. Number 7, you got the Louisiana Rubro at 1 through 6. And then 7, and then at 6, the Omaha Beef. Strangely, since now they've won 3 straight, 3 and 5, they are at number 6 and would be going to the playoffs. Strangely, especially how the bad start is. And right now, it's between the Rubro and the Beef who will get that 6th final spot here. Because, especially since if there's 2 more games, I think there's about 2 to 4 more weeks because the National League is going to be ending their season soon. And right now, that has got confirmed playoff spots as definitely now. Number 5, Colorado Spartans at 4 and 4. The Salina Liberty at 5 and 3. The Sioux City Bandits also at 5 and 3. Then the top 2, the Pablo Punishers with the 2 seed, and the Southwest Kansas Storm, which has basically clinched home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So that's right now for the National Arena League here. So besides the trouble with the Dallas Bulls, I would say National League has had pretty good season otherwise, better than what it has been. Just that the Dallas Bulls shouldn't just that just needs to be thrown over to the wolves and all that stuff there. And yeah, it's still hard to believe that with their track record of the ownership for the Dallas Bulls, and they some people thinking of a different result, it just didn't happen. Okay, then now we got the. Let me double check here. Yes, the IFL here going with week 10. And strangely enough, on their website, I was like double checking. They don't have a standings deal, but they're like pretty soon they're going to have to put up like, I believe there's about 7 to somewhere between 7 and 9 more weeks because, as I said before, the IFL is basically it seems like as long as a Canadian Football League season, even though it's kind of similar to the NFL season, but like I said, it just, boy, compared to others, it just seems so long. But I digress. First one, you got the Tuscan Sugar Skulls against the Quad City Steamwheelers, and this was close. This was a neck and neck game from the beginning. And that's good, especially for this time, and especially for trying to get into playoff spots, and especially since Quad City's still good, but still could be a little bit better. Sugar Skulls, there, even though we know that Arizona Rattlers is king in the state of Arizona when it comes to indoor football, they seem to be bouncing on the edges a little bit, and it's still improving. So good game overall, and the Quad City Steamwheelers edge out at home at 40 to 38. Tuscan Excuse me a moment. I had to double check that. Okay. Tuscan quarterback Towson Wilson, 8 through 16, 68 yards, 1 touchdown, 7 tenths, 22 yards, and a touchdown. Rushing touchdown. Running back Jatavian Tolles, 20 attempts for 15 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 reception for -1 yard. Yeesh. Wide receiver Brandon Mardix, 1 reception for 12 yards and 4 rushing attempts for 2 yards and a rushing TD. Wide receiver Jalen Waters, 2 receptions, 32 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Best defensive performance Byron Murray, 4 tackles, 2 assists, and an interception. Quad City quarterback Daquan Neal, 9 through 21. Yeah, one thing, his accuracy has gone down this year, I will say that. 135 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions, 13 rushing attempts for 47 yards. Running back Gerard Ware, 7 attempts for 27 yards and a touchdown, and 1 reception for 41 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Kayvon Rudd, 3 receptions, 41 yards, and 1 rushing attempt for 3 yards and a touchdown, and also 1 kick return for 33 yards for a kick return touchdown. Wide receiver Quan Williams, 4 receptions, 45 yards, and a touchdown, and best defensive performance for the Steamwheelers. Keyshawn Moore, 5 tackles, 3 assists, and 2 sacks. Excuse me. San Diego Strike Force of San Antonio Gunslingers. Another close game. Just edging the San Diego Strikers edge out a little bit more thanks to their quarterback play by Nate Davis. Gunslingers, even though they have been losing, they are well improved from last year, as I said many times. And the San Diego Strike Force beat the Gunslingers 48-36. San Diego quarterback Nate Davis, 20 to 38, 180 yards, 4 TDs, an interception, 3 attempts, 10 yards. Running back Terrell Green Jr., 11 rushing attempts, 41 yards, a touchdown, 5 receptions, 49 yards. Running back Edward Venter, 1 attempt, 1 yard for a touchdown. Wide receiver Dallas Daniels, 7 receptions, 97 yards, and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Jalen Samples, 6 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Shane Hooks, 2 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance for the Strike Force, Adam Anderson. Ugh. 3 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. San Antonio quarterback Joaquin Calazo, 6 through 10, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 attempts, 11 yards. Quarterback, there was 2 quarterback plays due to an injury. Quarterback Fred Payton Jr., 4 out of 11, 105 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 attempts for 16 yards. Wide receiver Glenn Gibbons, 4 receptions, 47 yards, and 2 TDs. I'm sorry, 147 yards, 2 TDs. Wide receiver Deion McShane, 4 receptions, 93 yards, 3 TDs. Best defensive performance for the gunslinger Reverius Rivers, 6 tackles. I have a feeling that if he gets signed next year, he's probably going to go to a better team. All right. Next, we got the Jacksonville Sharks against the Fisher Freight, 2 of the new teams. And boy, this game doesn't disappoint either. But this game just also went back and forth. But the Jacksonville Sharks actually came back a bit from the fourth quarter to take the lead to beat the Fisher Freight 68-50. And honestly, I do see this as probably another playoff matchup for this year. And honestly, I can't wait to see these 2 teams play again. Let's see here. Jacksonville quarterback James Calhoun, 24 out of 30, 260 yards, 5 TD, 3 attempts, 6 yards. That honestly would have been my player of the week on the poll we do, but someone did something actually a little bit better than that. Running back Jimmy Robinson Jr., 8 attempts, 28 yards, and a touchdown. Running back Sammy Edwards, 7 attempts, 9 yards, and 3 TDs. Wide receiver Jaden Stoshak, 7 receptions, 101 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Wide receiver Mikael Wade, 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 TDs. Wide receiver Jalen May, 1 reception, 12 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive performance for the Sharks, Isaiah Major, 2 tackles, 6 assists, and 1 interception. For Fisher Freight, Felix Harper, 14 out of 22, 200, making sure 118 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception, 8 rushing attempts, with a yard and a touchdown. Running back Dominic Roberts, 8 attempts, rushing, 89 yards, 3 TDs, 4 receptions for 29 yards. Wide receiver C.G. Wyndham, 3 receptions for 16 yards and 2 TDs. And best defensive performance, Marcus Gray, 7 tackles and 6 assists. Next, you got Green Bay Blizzard versus the Tulsa Oilers. Talk about a game here, too. And a lot of close ones, especially Green Bay had a little bit of a kind of a little trouble being shut out in the second, but then they answered back, shutting the Tulsa Oilers out in the fourth quarter, ordered the store to come back to beat the Oilers 41-35. This is probably another matchup I probably could see in the playoffs too, but I digress here. It's still amazing how the Blizzard are still doing good after both their quarterback and running back were signed away to Arizona. Green Bay quarterback Liam Thompson, 11 of 20, 158 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 INTs for 75 yards and a rushing touchdown. Running back Kari Robinson, 10 rushing attempts, 44 yards and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 21 yards. Wide receiver Tavon Alexander, 4 receptions, 93 yards and 3 TDs. Wide receiver Drazen Hudson, uh, 2 receptions, 33 yards, and a touchdown. Best defensive performance for the Blizzard, Trayvon Grant, 4 tackles, 2 assists. Tulsa Oilers quarterback TJ Edwards, 16-29, 117 yards. Excuse me. 3 TDs, 14 rushing attempts for 7 yards and a rushing touchdown. Running back Caleb Ramar, 9 attempts, 66 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 reception for 7 yards. Wide receiver Jermaine Smith Jr., 9 receptions, 100 yards, and 3 TDs. Best defensive performer Frederick Malloy, 7 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and also an interception. All right. Time for basically bottom the barrel game here. And unfortunately, for some odd reason, again, I don't know why the IFL site has this problem, but there's usually last few weeks, including last week, there wasn't a problem with this, but for some reason, for a game that says completed, but when you look for the stats of the game, it still says games in progress, and you can't really get good stats only from the stats because it's still saying it was being played in the second quarter. I do not understand why this hasn't been fixed. It's weird, and honestly, it'd be weird with all the data collecting. It's just weird. But bottom of the barrel, you got the Northern Arizona Wranglers against the Iowa Barnstormers, and though Barnstormers did play better, they still got beat. The Northern Wranglers beat the Iowa Barnstormers 57-35. They really need to start from scratch with that team. Now we get to the neutral site new championship with the American Dream Cup 1, which you had 4 teams, and like I said, these were played last Monday night. Interesting though, both games. You clear like there was one team in both games. You had one team that was dominant, while the other not really. Though the second one was a little bit more surprising. So first game, you got the powerhouse that is the Arizona Rattlers against the New Mexico Chupacabras. And Arizona, there was like, I'm assuming that they just put in a backup queue because this game was over pretty much after the first half. Arizona Rattlers scored 23 while the Chupacabras scored 8. But then Arizona scored 19, shut them out, and then third quarter scored another 16. New Mexico only scored 7, and then Arizona just scored immediately 3 points in the fourth quarter and shut out the Chupacabras. Boy, kind of wondering who's worse now, New Mexico or the Iowa Barnstormers right now. Heesh. And it was just dominant. They had both the starting and backup quarterback for Arizona. So Max Miller, 6-9, 63 yards, a touchdown, 3 attempts for 7 yards rushing. Drew Powell, 9-11, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 attempts for 45 yards and 1 rushing TD. Running back Kamari Clark, 6 rushing attempts for 20 yards and a touchdown. 6 receptions for 20 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Roy Boy Jr., 2 receptions for 35 yards and a touchdown. Then 2 rushing attempts for 7 yards and a touchdown. And then also a kick return of 36 yards for a kick return touchdown. Wide receiver Arlen Bruce, 3 receptions, 61 yards and a touchdown. And on the defensive front for the Rattlers, Jermaine Dobbs, 1 assist and 2 INTs. Quarterback for the New Mexico, yeah, they they since they kind of did lose their starting quarterback, they're looking for other people. Quarterback Harrington Rubaru, 9 through 21, 128 yards, a touchdown, 4 interceptions. 2 rushing attempts for negative 12 yards. Yeesh. Quarterback Donovan Portner, 7 through 10, 59 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and also a rushing attempt for negative 3 yards. Wide receiver Damon Street, 5 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver CJ Jefferson, 5 receptions for 34 yards and a touchdown. And best defensive form for the Chupacabra, 6 tackles and an assist. Excuse me. Then the final game for the IFL last night, you had the Vegas Nighthawks versus Orlando Pirates. Once again, this was like to play, but that happened for honestly, I thought this was going to be a lot closer. The Vegas Nighthawks beat the Orlando Pirates 73 to 33. The Orlando Pirates has not really been the same since the change since their first head coach departed on good terms. Let me be clear, it was odd that he resigned. Like it wasn't, maybe it was something with the family or something. I still can't remember since it was a few weeks ago. And Orlando has not been playing the same since. Like they did win, but then after that they just have these losses and then they just lose again, like I said, by 40 points, 73 to 33. It just like it was close at the first, but after the third quarter, they were shut out while Vegas got 3 scorings, and then they did again, but only scored back 7. So, sheesh, I don't know what's going on with Orlando. That it's going to need to be studied or something, man. Uh, Vegas quarterback Jaden Delora, 12 through 19, 107 yards, 2 TDs, an interception. 7 rushing 10 for 56 yards and 3 rushing TDs. Then their other quarterback, Avari Rucker, 1 through 2, 22 yards, a touchdown, 3 rushes, 3 yards, basic garbage time. Running back Josh Thomas, 23 rushing attempts for 100 yards rushing, 4 TDs, 3 receptions for 184 for 18 yards receiving. Ugh. Wide receiver Seneca McKee, 6 receptions, 63 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver John Ibby, 2 receptions, 15 yards, a touchdown, and 1 rushing attempt for a yard. Then best defensive performance. For some reason, the name is not on my list, but the person got 2 tackles, 3 assists, and an interception. Odd. Orlando quarterback Parton Delorant, 19 to 27, 206 yards, 3 TDs, 2 interceptions, 4 rush attempts for a yard. Running back Puka Williams, 4 rush attempts for 6 yards and a touchdown. 4 receptions for 2 yards. And then also 7 returns for 102 yards and a kick return to. Hold on, let me double check. No, that was wide receiver Naquan Murray. 7 receptions, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 attempts for 3 yards, and 7 returns for 102 yards and a kick yard return. Wide receiver Thomas Owen, 6 receptions, 55 yards, and a TD. Best defensive point for the Pirates, Jared Peetson, 5 tackles, 3 assists, and a sack. So with this tournament, Vegas and Arizona will play for the championship. That will happen this Memorial Day weekend, while the compensation game, Orlando and New Mexico will face each other. Honestly, I think Orlando is going to have a field day with New Mexico. Anyway, now we get to the Arena Football one, which I have to say they have been also having a good season as well. If I can get this going here, though I will say like they have a lot of teams that have only won 1 game, but it's like very close and it's going to be entertaining. Like I said, who gets the Okay, what's okay? There we go. All right, there we go. And it this proves it here. Oceanside Bombers, they're still a good team in my opinion, even though they only have one win, but they lose a close one against the Nashville Cats in Nashville, 63 to 49. I actually passed there through this weekend. If I would have known that, like unfortunately, I was a little on the other side of state to get a a ticket for that one. So Nashville, the so like again, Nashville Cats beat the Oceanside Bombers 63 to 49. Quarterback Rudy Johnson for the Oceanside Bombers, 22 out of 33, 312 yards, 7 TDs, one reception, 6 attempts for 7 yards. For a team, for a quarterback to come with a good stats for that, but only have one win so far this year, dang. Wide receiver Taji Brooks, 5 receptions, 86 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver Tyler Kennedy, 7 receptions, 98 yards, 2 TDs. Wide receiver Javon Tucker, 6 receptions, 94 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Vincent Strange Jr., 1 reception, 10 yards and a touchdown. Uh, on defense, uh, defensive end Shajon Rogers, 3 tackles and 1 attack. Nashville quarterback Tyler Coca, 22 out of 30, 313 yards, 6 TDs, 1 interception, 1 rushing attempt for a yard and a rushing TD. Running back slash linebacker Desmond Maxwell, 4 attempts, 22 yards, uh, 2 TDs, 1 reception for 11 yards. Wide receiver Charles Hall, the fourth, 8 receptions, 112 yards, and 4 TDs. Wide receiver Mavic Honeycutt, 7 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Steven Peterson, 5 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive for the Nashville Cats, defensive back Amos Coleman, a third, 4 tackles, 1 attack, and an interception. Then you got the Albany Firebirds, and you got the return of Sam Castronova. Oh dear God. It's quite amazing. Like, since his turn, he hasn't lost competitive, close game when it came to this. And the Michigan Arsenal only lost barely the Albany Firebirds 50 by 3 points, 60 to 57. Hardly any defense in this game. Uh, so, especially in the second half. So, this uh, quarterback, Sam Castor, he'll get my player of the week here. 29 out of 39, 360 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 rushing attempts for negative 11 yards. Still wish he got a chance to play for the Houston Gamblers, but I digress. Wide receiver Isaiah Scott, 9 receptions, 10 yards, and 4 TDs. Wide receiver Dwayne Brown, 9 receptions, 120 yards, 3 TDs. Wide receiver Darian Townsend, 8 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown. Offensive lineman Brandon Nicholson, 1 reception for a yard and a touchdown. Got a big man touchdown. Yay. Best defensive form, Marcus Smith, 5 tackles. Defensive back, Marcus Smith, 5 tackles and an INT. Uh, for the Michigan Arsenal, Malik Henry, also a good game. 21-36, 210 yards, 7 TDs, interceptions, 4 attempts for 2 yards. Wide receiver Darrell Williams, the third, 10 receptions, 105 yards, and 6 TDs. That was his main weapon there, though. Huh. Wide receiver Jarvis Grissom, 5 receptions and 70 yards and a touchdown. And then also wide receiver Vance Bennett, 5 kick returns for a total 160 yards and also a kick return touchdown. Defensive performer for the Arsenal, linebacker Cornell Jones, 6 tackles, 1 attack, and a sack. Then you got the Washington Wolfpack and the Oregon Lightning. And I'll say this Wolfpack, after that one deal with the Albany Firebirds, has awakened something that is surprising, and I'm glad for this because the Washington Wolfpack have been nothing but just steadily improvement. And for them to beat the Oregon Lightning is one thing, but to blow them out is another. So I'm glad this happened, but it's more of a shock win. Like I knew they win, but I'm shocked about how they won with this game. They blew out the Oregon Lightning 79-19 and shut out the Oregon Lightning in the second and third quarter. Whew, man. And you got two quarterbacks playing here. Of course, one was like garbage time, but I digress. Washington quarterback Javier Magler, 8 to 13, 139 yards, 3 TDs, 2 attempts, 2 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also, you kind of have to worry about the Oregon Lightning's head coach job right now. Oof. Backup quarterback Eric Phoenix, 3 for 4, 69 yards, 2 TDs. Wide receiver Deshaun Williams, 2 receptions, 43 yards, and 2 TDs. Wide receiver Tyler Stevens, 2 receptions, 47 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Marcus Manuel Jr., 1 reception, 39 yards, and a touchdown. Defensive player for the Wolfpack, defensive back Byron Edwards, tackled 2 interceptions, and one of those returned for a touchdown. Quarterback Robert McCoy, 5 through 18, 31 yards, a touchdown, and 3 INTs. Then Dalton Cole, 2 for 13, 26 yards, 8 attempts, 22 yards, 2 touchdowns. I can't recall if Dalton Cole got injured or got pulled. I just can't remember. Wide receiver Chris Lewis, 5 receptions, 34 yards, and a touchdown. And best defensive form for the Oregon Lightning, Freddie Booth Lloyd, 1 forced fumble and 1 INT. Then you got the final game of AF1 here. You got the Beaumont Renegades versus the new Kentucky Barrels, and the Kentucky Barrels are riding high with their victories, and for expansion team doing very, very well. They once again beat the Beaumont Renegades, which technically would be the defending NAL champs, but then they just moved over to Arena Football 1, and still a good game, good process, and it's just really good, though. I think Beaumont is, though, just a moment. Yeah, they're one of the teams that only has one victory. So yeah. So Kentucky Barrels beat the Beaumont Renegades 55-36. Quarterback Beaumont quarterback Andrew McBride, uh 20 out of 35, 171 yards, 5 TDs, 2 interceptions. Wide receiver slash defensive back Zuri Davis, 8 receptions, 61-yard receptions, and 4 TDs. Best defensive performer, defensive back Isaiah Gandy, 9 tackles and 3 attacks. Kentucky Barrels quarterback Daryl Overstreet Jr., 21 out of 34, 269 yards, 7 TDs, 2 interceptions, 5 rushing attempts for 11 yards, and 2 rushing TDs. Wide receiver Darius Prince, 3 receptions, 48 yards, 2 TDs. Wide receiver slash defensive back Jalen Marshall, 6 receptions, 104 yards, and 2 TDs. Best defensive performer, I mean, I'm sorry. Wide receiver Melvin Holland, 1 reception for 1 yard and a touchdown. And then wide receiver and defensive back Joel Powell did double duty on offense and defense. Joe Powell, 3 receptions, 30 yards and a touchdown. And also on defense, he was the defensive performer as well. 1 interception, 1 attempt for 23 yards. And then also an offensive lineman, Jamez Kimbrough, got a reception for 20 yards and a touchdown. And that does it for the football one. And right now, the standing is at right now. You got the unbeaten Albany Firebirds at number 1, Kentucky Barrels at 4-1, along with the Nashville Cats at 3 at 4-1. The Minnesota Monsters are at 4 at 3-1. Washington Wolfpack, stranger right now, are in the playoffs for 2 and 3. And then you got a 3-way tie for the 6th spot right now, though, with the ties with the points for and points against. The Oceanside Bombers right now are number 6 at 1 and 4. Then the Beaumont Renegades 1 and 4 at 7. Oregon Lightning at 1 and 4, and then dead last. And like I said, the Michigan Arsenal plays really well. They don't play like they're dead last. Like if the Michigan Arsenal and the Iowa Barnstormers played against each other, Michigan Arsenal would win by a mile. And they are 1 and 5 playing 6 games. So got a few more weeks. We'll see how this changes, especially because, well, I'll say that the number 1, pretty much the 1 through 3, Albany, Kentucky, and Nashville are pretty much it, in my opinion. The other spots are still up for grabs, in my opinion. So we'll see after a few weeks. All right. After that, you got the AA 7-6. The William Myers beat the Pittsburgh Outlaws 62-6, and then the Mississippi Wolfpack beat the Tri City River Gators 56-0. Then in the International Arena League, so far, like I said, it seems only having 2 games a week. The Cincinnati Slingers beat the Arizona Juggers 39-27, and then I'll say this: the Utah Great to Las Vegas Rockers. That ended at. I was able to catch the tail end of that, and boy, talk about like that was a good stop for the Utah Great Eights to get the ball back and run the clock to beat uh, the Rockers 60-57 by 3. So I'll tell you one thing, like I said, Utah, the Pennsylvania Benjamins, and maybe Cincinnati, Arizona also throw them into those 14 uh the IAL ends. I do believe that those 4 teams the AF1 needs to look at and try to bring them in. They need to try to bring them in. Those are because those are good locations, and those would be great for that league, in my humble opinion. So that's something I need to talk to Zach and Luke the next time I have them on. All right. Now let's go through the games here through this Memorial Day weekend. All right, here. For the National Relay League, you have the on Saturday Louisiana Rubo versus Southwest Kansas Storm at 6 o'clock CDT, and all these games are on the National Arena League network. Southwest Kansas Storm is going to get that one. Then you got the Armor Birds at the bottom. Has the game team, but it's an out league team known from the Phantom. So Amarillo should win this, but if they lose, I would not be shocked. Colorado Spartans versus the Omaha Beef, and these two are like at the 2 last spots for the playoffs. So, like this is playoff implications here. The Omaha Beef beats Colorado here, then that's going to be interesting placing wise because the Omaha Beef needs to win in order to stay in the playoffs, and then Louisiana Rubaru, they're also in the playoff hunt, but like they just had to beat Southwest against the Storm. I think it would be a too tall of an order. But if they do, talk about an upset and also how that changed the seeding as well, because then they would still be alive. And then you got the Sioux City Bandits versus the Salina Liberty. I got the Liberty just edging out on that one at 7 o'clock. IFL, not a lot of games here. Friday they got the Jacksonville Sharks versus the Ara Barnstormers on the overnight network at 8 o'clock. Jacksonville. Saturday, Tulsa Oilers versus the San Antonio Gunslingers, also on overnight. Tulsa. Northern Arizona Wranglers versus San Diego Strike Force, also on overnight at 10 Eastern on Saturday. San Diego. Then on Sunday, you got the compensation game, New Mexico versus Orlando at 1 o'clock on overnight. That I'm going with the Pirates on that one. Then the championship one for this first type of tournament. Arizona Rattlers versus the Vegas Nighthawks on Yahoo. And that's the only game that is on the Yahoo Sports Network. Interesting. That one is going to be close to call, and honestly, that probably is the Western Conference Championship for the playoffs. So I it's a coin flip. I'm going to go with Vegas. Why not? AF1 Friday, you got the Nashville Cats versus the Minnesota Monsters at 7 EDT. Nashville. Saturday, the Belmont Renegades versus the Washington Wolfpack at 6. I'm going with the momentum that's going, and I'm going with the Washington Wolfpack to continue their streak. Then Sunday, the Kentucky Barrels versus the Oceanside Bombers. Oh, no. Then Saturday, Michigan Arsenal versus the Oregon Lightning at 9 EDT. A lot of the late games since these are on the West Coast. I just want Michigan to beat Oregon and keep that going so they can improve and no longer be at the bottom. Sunday, Kentucky Barrels versus the Oceanside Bombers at 9 o'clock Sunday evening. Kentucky, but close, very close. Then the Arena League has two preseason games. You got the Tri-City Tundra versus the Iowa, and the Iowa will be playing at their new spot with the University of Northern Iowa Dome in middle of their indoor football. Well, that where the college football team plays. That's where they're going to be. So it's going to be interesting how they set up that field. So this game will be on the Arena League YouTube page. So I want to see how this field is set up. Then you got the Nebraska Siege versus the Minnesota Warhawks, going with the new Siege and see how that goes. Then AAL, like it's a little confusing, but according to the schedule, they all have a bye. So I'm assuming Memorial Day weekend. Then the International Arena League, two games that's going to be on YouTube. Saturday game, the Pennsylvania Benjamins versus Cincinnati Slingers. I'm going with Pennsylvania. Then Sunday, you have the Glasgow Tartans versus the Utah Grade Eights. Let's cause some chaos. Let's have the European team win the Tartans. So that'll be that for Memorial Day weekend, and honestly, it looks going to be fun. Thankfully, no games on Monday on Memorial Day itself. So everyone enjoy. Hopefully, everyone gets good weather. So far, it looks like it might be a rainy Memorial Day here in the St. Louis area. So hopefully that changes. But if not, enjoy time with family, grilling, and all sorts of stuff, and just have fun and a safe Memorial Day weekend. I'll be back here next week on the Gate here for another episode of Arena Frontier on the Gateway Sports. Thank you for joining us this evening. See you all next week.